Good evening. Welcome to tonight's scary bedtime story to help you fall asleep. Please comment below and tell me where you are watching from and what time it is there. Not long after settling into a new city, a faded industrial town in Pennsylvania, I decided to jump back into the dating pool. I didn't know anyone yet, and Tinder felt like a quick way to meet someone local. That's how I matched with her. She went by Lila. Her profile was cluttered with black and white photos, messy hair, stacks of old books, crystals hanging from windows. She looked like the artsy, free-spirited type. Our messages were strange but intriguing enough that I agreed to meet her for drinks. I picked her up from an old Victorian-style house on the east side of town. The porch sagged slightly under its own weight, and the windows looked like they hadn't been cleaned in decades. When she opened the door, she didn't step out at first, just stood there staring at me, smiling in this odd, frozen way. I tried to shake it off. She suggested a dive bar downtown, a place I hadn't heard of before. I offered to drive. She agreed, but as I walked to the driver's side, I noticed she just stood behind me, motionless, until I awkwardly asked if she was getting in. She smiled again, too wide, and took the long way around the car to the passenger side, trailing her hand along the trunk as she went. The air in the car felt thick, oppressive. During the drive, she spoke so softly I could barely hear her, almost like she was whispering secrets meant for someone else. I had to ask her to repeat herself more times than I can count. It made my skin crawl a little, but I kept telling myself she was probably just high or anxious. At the bar, things smoothed out, at least for a while. Under the muted neon lights, she opened up about her love for art, poetry, and psychedelics. Shrooms, acid, DMT. She rattled off the substances like ingredients in a recipe. Part of me was relieved. Maybe she was just eccentric. After a couple of drinks, I invited her back to my place. She accepted without hesitation. Big mistake. When we got inside, she drifted through my living room like a cat, running her fingertips across shelves and furniture, humming to herself. She then stopped dead in front of the mantel, where I kept a few pieces of random jewelry. Family heirlooms, nothing valuable. "This," she said, lifting a silver ring, "this connects me to who I really am." I asked her what she meant. Her eyes gleamed under the dim light as she leaned in close. "I am Anastasia," she whispered. "The true bloodline. The last Romanov." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. When I gently questioned her, she exploded, screaming about history, betrayal, and bloodlines. She ranted about how my ancestors were oppressors, how my spirit would pay for its sins. Before I could react, she grabbed my face with cold, iron fingers, her nails digging into my jaw. Her breath was sour and frantic. Then she dipped her hand into a whiskey glass on the table, smeared a wet cross across my forehead, and kissed it. My heart started pounding. Hard. I smiled weakly, trying to play along, to calm her down. She relaxed slightly, began pacing the room like a caged animal. That's when the conversation took an even darker turn. She spoke of her pet list, a roster of people she made crawl, purr, beg like animals for her amusement. Her voice grew dreamy as she described whipping them, feeding them from bowls, locking them in cages. Then she dropped to all fours in my living room, hissing and meowing, clawing at the floorboards. I was frozen, part horrified, part paralyzed by the sheer surrealism of it all. I said nothing, until she noticed a bundle of sage on my kitchen counter, the one I burned now and then to clear the stale air in winter. She lunged for it, demanding to perform a blessing over the house. I refused. It was my tradition, my personal ritual. Her face twisted into pure fury. "You will suffer," she spat. "Your walls will rot. Your bloodline will pay." I told her I could take her home. She laughed, high, sharp, mocking, and then bolted out the front door into the freezing night. I locked it immediately. But within minutes, she was back, pounding on the wood hard enough to rattle the frame. I peered through the window. Her face was pressed against the glass, her mouth moving, though no sound came through. After 10 minutes, she screamed that she left her phone inside. Against my better judgment, I cracked the door open, tossed her phone toward her, and braced myself as she tried to push inside. I blocked her with my forearm, firm but not violent. Her eyes burned with hatred. "Give me the whiskey too!" she shrieked. I slammed the door in her face and locked it again. I stood at the window, heart hammering, watching her silhouette scream at the sky before staggering down the street into the shadows. For days after that, I barely slept. I checked the locks a dozen times a night. Walked the perimeter of my house with a flashlight, always half expecting to see her crouched in the bushes, waiting. She never came back, but I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't stayed calm, if I hadn't kept the door between us. And sometimes, when the winter wind howls against the windows, I swear I can still hear her scratching at the wood, whispering about bloodlines and ancient curses. It was June 2022, in a humid coastal city in South Carolina, when I first matched with him. His name was Leo. 28 years old, he said. I was 24. He claimed he was only in town temporarily for work, originally from out west, near Phoenix. Leo had this polished, almost too perfect look, tailored clothes, sleek hair, an easy smile that could have sold ice to a polar bear. Even though my instincts whispered that something was off, I agreed to meet him after just a day of texting. We set the meeting point at a trendy bar tucked inside an old, converted warehouse near the waterfront. Something about it all felt scripted from the start. When I first saw him standing there, in a fitted charcoal suit and a long, dark coat despite the heat, he looked like he belonged on the cover of a magazine. The moment I stepped close, he swept me into an embrace so tight it took my breath away, then kissed my cheek with lingering intensity. He clutched my hand immediately, as if claiming ownership. It felt strange, too much, too fast. But he was Brazilian, he said, and I chalked it up to cultural differences. We went to a high-end bar he picked, the type of place where the menus don't list prices, and the lighting is designed to make everyone look beautiful. He insisted on covering the entire evening. That's when the show really began. Leo painted me a portrait of a life that was tragic, romantic, cinematic. Born to wealthy parents in Rio de Janeiro, lost it all. Sent to Portugal to be raised by strict religious relatives. Ran away at 17 to find his birth mother. Made his way to America to chase a dream, studying aerospace engineering. He was smooth. So smooth I found myself leaning in, hanging onto every word. And he mirrored me perfectly. Every hardship I shared, he claimed to understand. Every passion I mentioned, he said he loved too. It was like he had rehearsed for this moment. Still, something gnawed at me. The way his eyes flitted when I asked direct questions. The way he slipped grand gestures into casual conversation. Like he wasn't just dating, he was recruiting. After a few cocktails, he suggested going back to his place. I agreed, cautiously. I told him I had to leave before midnight. I wasn't planning on staying long. When we got there, it was like stepping onto a movie set. Dim candles flickered. A low, sensual song played from hidden speakers. He poured heavy glasses of deep red wine and insisted that we dance. Salsa, he said, just like the stories he spun. It was overwhelming, hypnotic. I don't know if it was the drinks or the way he moved, but my brain fogged over. We kissed. We tangled. But I kept my promise to myself. I didn't sleep with him. I left still fully dressed. The next morning, he took me to breakfast, paid for everything, made sure to tuck a strand of my hair behind my ear before putting me into a prepaid Uber. I should have ended it there. Instead, within days, Leo escalated. Lavish gifts appeared, delicate lingerie in sizes he couldn't have known, jewelry with intricate designs. Then the final blow. He booked an all-expenses-paid trip to the Bahamas for both of us. That's when the alarm screamed in my head. Who flies a stranger to a private island after one night of chaste kissing? Who insists you pack nothing because everything will be waiting for you? My gut twisted into knots. I started digging. Hard. I searched every inch of his online presence. His social media was pristine, sterile. Barely any tags, few friends, staged travel photos. Everything about him felt constructed, Using a banking app feature that linked phone numbers to names, I uncovered something that sent ice through my veins. His real name wasn't Leo. It was something else entirely. Something that led me to an obscure legal case buried deep in Arizona's records. A civil dispute. Debt. Fraud allegations. That wasn't the worst part. In a hidden corner of Instagram, I found an old group photo. Leo, if that was even his real name, wrapped tightly around a woman. Not a sister, not a cousin. No, the comments told the real story. Love you both, can't wait for the wedding. And the woman? She wasn't a stranger either. After some brutal late-night searching, I connected her to a missing persons report. Years ago, unsolved. Panic clawed at my throat. I confronted him indirectly, asking casual questions about his family and history, watching how he shifted in his seat, how he stammered slightly when details didn't line up. He kept pushing the trip, insisted it was booked, insisted we leave that weekend. I told him I needed time, needed to pack. I lied. Instead, the night we were supposed to leave, I ghosted him. Blocked him on every platform, changed my number, warned the hotel he'd booked in case he showed up looking for me. I heard nothing for a few days, until I got a single text from an unknown number. You can't hide from me. I moved apartments within the month. There are nights when I wake up sure that I hear footsteps outside my window, or see the glint of headlights pausing too long on the street. Maybe it's just paranoia. Or maybe Leo, or whatever his real name is still out there, looking for the one that got away. It happened in mid-December, just a few days before Christmas. I'm 32 now, a Navy veteran who spent nearly a decade bouncing between deployments. These days, I'm using my military benefits to attend college in a quiet mountain town in northern Washington. Between school and part-time work, I barely have time to breathe, let alone socialize. So dating apps became my only real outlet. That's how I matched with her. Her name was Danny, same age as me. Dark hair, striking eyes, soft voice. Our chats were decent, nothing extraordinary, but good enough that we planned to meet. She suggested a place not far from either of us. A dim-lit bar with pinewood floors, tucked into the edge of the town. Neutral ground. She looked even better in person. Refined, quiet, but magnetic. During drinks, she told me she worked at the sheriff's office. Not a deputy or anything, just front desk administrative work. She added, almost offhandedly, that her roommate was out of town for the holidays, and that she hated being alone. Her words shifted then. She mentioned having an ex-boyfriend who was, quote, a little obsessed. Said he still followed her sometimes. That gave me pause. I raised an eyebrow. She laughed it off and said he was harmless. That she'd gotten used to it. I should have left then. I really should have. But we had another drink, and then another. She leaned closer and suggested we go back to her place. I didn't protest. She was beautiful, and her lips were practically on my neck. She insisted on driving, even though I said I was fine. Claimed she'd seen too many DUIs at work and didn't want to risk it. I had only 2 gin and tonics, but I let her take the keys. That's when things started getting off. When we got to her house, she walked up and opened the front door without unlocking it. Just swung it open like she was returning from the mailbox. That detail might not seem like much, but remember, she said she had a stalker. Her roommate was gone. Why was her door unlocked? I stepped inside and followed her to the kitchen. She started feeding a cat, an old gray thing with matted fur, and that's when I saw a bowl of cereal on the counter. Frosted Flakes, still cold. The milk hadn't even soaked in yet. I touched the side of the bowl, chilled. That cereal had just been poured, recently, and not by her. I asked her about it. She froze, just for a second. Then she said she had made it before we left for the bar. I knew that was a lie. It didn't even look stale. Before I could press further, she kissed me. Deep, slow, like she was trying to shut me up. Then she whispered that we should go to her room. I gave in. She was seductive, and for a while, the weirdness just faded. But not for long. 5 minutes into fooling around, I went to close the curtains. She told me to leave them open. I didn't argue. My back was to the window, and that's when she gasped. A sharp, broken gasp, like something stabbed her soul. Her eyes locked onto something behind me. I turned. A man in a hood stood at the window, staring in. As soon as I moved, he bolted, running across the wooden deck, disappearing into the dark. Adrenaline hit me like a flood. I ran to the front door. It was unlocked. I threw the deadbolt, and just as I did, the banging began. Heavy, rapid fists pounding the door. I went to open it, thinking I'd knock the guy out cold, but she stopped me, begged me to let it go, told me he always does this, that he'd leave soon. That made me snap. "What the hell do you mean, always?" I shouted. She kept calm, too calm. Said he was her ex, said not to worry. I didn't believe a word of it. I could hear banging again, this time on the side of the house, then the back. It was like he was circling, or they were circling. She wasn't scared, not even a little. She just kept asking me to come back to bed. I felt sick, trapped. My car was still at the bar. I didn't want to call the police. What if he was a cop? Or she knew the ones who'd respond? My gut screamed at me to get out, but I had no escape plan. The metallic taste of panic filled my mouth. My hands trembled. I started calling her out, about the door, the cereal, the way she froze when I asked questions. She kept saying I was overreacting, told me to calm down, tried to touch me again, seduce me. It wasn't working. The pounding continued, now from the back window, then the side wall. I don't know if it was one person or more, but it was rhythmic, methodical. I shouldn't have said what I said next, but fear had pushed me too far. "If this is a setup," I told her, "if this is some kind of robbery or ambush, I swear to God I will kill you both." Her eyes went cold, expressionless. She didn't even flinch. I discreetly ordered an Uber on my phone and stalled for time, arguing with her while I stood near the front door. I hadn't undressed fully. My shoes and coat were still near the entrance. When the car pulled up, I yanked the door open and bolted. There he was, circling the house. I didn't wait to see his face. I ran through the snow to the car, slammed the door, and told the driver to just go. When I looked back, Danny was standing in the open doorway, not chasing, not calling out, just watching. It's been over a month now. I still have no clue what I stumbled into that night. I've run it over in my head 1,000 times. Was it a robbery setup? A fetish thing? Some twisted psychological trap? I don't know. All I know is, I've seen death before. I've stared it in the face. And whatever that night was, it felt like something darker. Something that doesn't care if you scream. The university had given me 2 choices for my international placement: some quiet city in Germany, or Halfstad, a sprawling, chaotic city tucked along the broken coasts of Northern Europe. I chose Halfstad. Something about its jagged skyline and heavy mist seemed romantic at the time, like a mystery waiting for me to step into it. I arrived late in the semester, clueless, hopeful, and lonelier than I wanted to admit. It wasn't long before I downloaded a dating app, just to meet someone who spoke English. Someone who could help me make this strange place feel less foreign. That's how I met him. His name was Emil. At least that's what he called himself. He was older, handsome, in a way that made you second-guess yourself. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair cut too close to the scalp, a lean frame dressed in stiff business clothes, like he was permanently late for a meeting. We chatted for a few days before agreeing to meet. He wanted to come to my dorm. I said no. Instead, I made him meet me at the open-air plaza near the old cathedral, the brightest, most public place I could think of. He wasn't happy about it, pushed back, insisted he could be trusted, but I stood my ground. When he finally arrived, he was late, almost an hour late. When I asked why, he smirked and said, "I like making you wait. It builds anticipation." I laughed awkwardly, pretending he was joking, but something inside me tensed. He was shorter than I expected, thin. His movements quick, twitchy, like a rabbit ready to bolt or attack. His heavy breathing, even in the cold night, made my skin prickle. His smile never reached his eyes. Immediately, he commented on my appearance. "You're not as pale as I thought," he said. I imagined greener eyes. Your photos made you look different. It was casual. I tried to wave it off. Maybe nerves, maybe poor English. But his English was perfect. At a nearby tea house, I tried to order a simple fruit tea. He stopped me, insisted I drink something else, some ancient herbal concoction he chose for me. I didn't want to argue. I drank it. It was bitter and earthy, coating my tongue with a numbness I didn't like. When I tried to ask about him, where he was from, what he studied, he gave no real answers, just riddles. "I am what you seek," he said at one point, "but not what you expect." He said he wanted to show me the real Halfstad. He suggested a walk through the old gardens behind the university. At night, they were a labyrinth of skeletal trees and twisting broken paths. I said no. He insisted. I refused again. That's when he grabbed my wrist, not painfully but firmly, and whispered, "It's better if no one sees." Every fiber of my body screamed. I yanked my arm away and started walking back toward the main road, fast. He followed, close behind me, silent. When we reached a hospital at the edge of the plaza, I turned to tell him it was over, that I was leaving. He leaned in. I thought he was trying to kiss me. Instead, he bit me, hard. His teeth clamped down on the soft flesh between my cheek and nose like an animal. I screamed, real gut-deep terror, and shoved him away. He stumbled back, laughing. I ran. I ran past the broken fountains, past the bus stops, into the neon glare of a 24-hour store. I collapsed inside, clutching my face, blood seeping between my fingers. The old man behind the counter shouted something in a language I didn't understand, but I didn't care. I stayed there until a friend came to find me. When I told them what happened, they said it wasn't that unusual. That some men here, and elsewhere, hunt foreign women. That to some we're trophies, conquests. There's even a word for it. Pale hunt. Later, when I pieced it together, something else clicked. The way he dressed, the way he tried to pick my drink, the way he commented on my skin, my eyes. He wasn't looking for a person. He was trying to recreate something, a fantasy, a script, one that ended, if I hadn't fought back, with something far worse than a bite. I reported the incident. The authorities promised they'd look into it, but I never heard anything more. Sometimes, when the streets are foggy and the old bells ring through Halfstad, I think I see him in the crowd, watching. Waiting. Maybe for someone else to fill the role I refuse to play.